ვფიქრობ, საზოგადოების ფართო წრეების ჩართულობა ამ საკითხებში ამამრჩევლის მხრივ. ზოგადად ცნობიერება სამიმართულებით, რაც ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანია იმის გასააზრებლად, რომ ეს პრობლემა რეალურია, ის არ არის მხოლოდ სამინისტროს უთქვას, არამედ ეს ჩვენთაგანის პრობლემა არის, რომელიც რაც უნდა ვებრძოლოთ, ასე ვთქვათ, ყოველდღიური საქმიანობისას, იქნება ეს აწარმოო საქმიანობა, ყოველდღიური საქმიანობა. ძალიან დიდი მადლობა, რომ გამოგავაგრძელებ, მინდა მივესალმო ექსპერტებს, ძალიან დიდი მადლობა მინდა უთხრა მას და წარმატებები.
მოგესალმებით, თუ წინააღმდეგი არ იქნებით ისურად პრეზენტაციას, როგორც არის. Thank you first of all to Michelato Foundation and Slovakate gave me the opportunity to prepare recommendations for preparation of the fourth national communication and second biannual data report of Georgia to UNFCCC. Most of you might aware about the convention and its objective, but in any case it would be useful if we mention something a little bit about the convention and its objective. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change entered into force in 1994, and 197 countries, including Georgia, have ratified the convention. And ultimate objective of the convention is to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system, to enable economic development to proceed in a sustainable manner. And Georgia, you might know that Georgia is a non-annex one country to the convention, which means that it doesn't have legally binding obligation to reduce greenhouse gas mitigation measures. However, in 2010, Georgia acceded to the Copenhagen Accord, declared that it will take steps to achieve a measurable, reportable, and verifiable deviation from the baseline scenario supported and enabled by finance, technology, and capacity building. And in 2015, for the Paris Conference, Georgia submitted its first intended nationally determined contribution document. For all parties, key mechanisms of reporting to the convention are the national communication and biannual data report nowadays. And those national reports are useful documents in the national planning and development process, as well as for policymakers just to coordinate climate change actions and programs on a national level. Until now, Georgia has submitted 3 national communications and 1 biannual data report for the following years. Just according to the baseline, according to the guidelines prepared by IPCC and UNFCCC for the national communication and biannual data report are the following. The main difference between these two documents are that national communication includes additionally these adaptation measures planned on a national level. So most of these subchapters are the same for these documents. National communication submitted during 4 years, and by biennial update report for 2 years. It updates the results of national communications. So there are ongoing negotiations between the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resource Protection of Georgia and UNDP for the preparation of the next reports, which will be the fourth national communication and second biannual update report. And we saw that it would be useful if we prepare some recommendations before the project start. And the recommendations are the following. I'll start from general to the specific one. First, it's in order to facilitate effective preparation process of the next reporting, strong coordination setup should be established among key institutions relevant to climate change issues. Second, the effective involvement of all key stakeholders in the process, awareness-raising campaigns should be organized. And next one is quality assurance and quality control is an important precondition for the reporting, and it would would be useful if some setup of a quality assurance system and conduct effective quality control procedures in the reporting process would be established. Ministry of Environment and Natural Resource Protection of Georgia should establish improved institutional system with data suppliers to overcome data confidentiality issues. Because for preparation of the previous biennial update reporting in national communications, we had a problem with the Georgian Statistics Office about the data confidentiality, and before these projects and GEG inventory will start for the next reporting, it would be useful if the ministry will just improve the institutional system with data suppliers. Next one, under the scope of the next communication and the annual update report, sustainable MRV system, measurement, reporting, and verification system should be developed. And with the help of GIZ, currently there are ongoing process of just framing MRV system for Georgia. And it will be very helpful, and if the ministry will just present during this reporting period sustainable MRV system, it would be useful, yes. Georgia is encouraged to use improved 2006 IPCC methodologies for the next GEG inventory, which will be prepared under the next reporting process, to calculate estimates of emissions by sources and removes by sinks for all previous years to have a consistent time series. The next one is in order to develop more robust GEG inventory and use higher methodologies, the project should strive to support scientific research to create national calorific values and greenhouse gas emission factors for corresponding key sources and sink categories. We had currently for greenhouse gas inventories, we use default emission factors, which is provided by the IPCC methodologies and guidelines, but it's recommended to use high-time methodologies and use national calorific values for the next GEG inventories, and I think that ministry and country should take steps to improve and have national emission factors for the next inventories. Under the scope of the next communication and biannual update report, information on all implementing ongoing and planned projects related to climate change in Georgia should be systematized and made it publicly available. Information on climate change projects will facilitate coordination among stakeholders and support effective policy making at national level. And last three recommendations which are prepared for the project: the lack of data in the OCF sector, which is most important issue in the GEG inventory for Georgia, is this problem can be resolved by creating a comprehensive national land use database using remote sensing technologies. And for that, coordination among all key stakeholders, including research institutes, universities, forest agencies, National Environmental Agency, National Statistics Office of Georgia, should be coordinated and cooperated during the process, because it's really a cross-sectoral issue for the country. It's important for the agriculture sector, for environmental sector, and geodatabase using remote sensing technologies will improve our data for the inventory. Georgia should strive to identify all emissions by sources and removals by things to comply completeness criteria of the GEG inventory, and can be used include emissions from fireworks, small cooking, and small source categories. The fourth, national communication should evaluate programs in institutional settings, circumstances compared to previous national communication, and impact of the measures stated in the third national communication. And the last one was recommended by our foreign expert, Ms. Gabriela. Thank you for that. And these are recommendations which prepared under the study. And if you have any questions regarding these recommendations, we can just discuss about that. Thank you.
Hocam, siz toparladığını alıyoruz. Böyle şekil kaybol, nereye izliyoruz? Hafta şekilde, hafta.
Okay. Not this one.
Okay. So first, let me thank you for inviting me here. It's my first time in Georgia, and this was also one of the motivations why I wanted to come. I work at the Ministry of Environment as a director of the Division for Climate Change and Air Protection, and we are currently in the stage of preparing 7th national communication, my 5th, and the 2nd biennial update report. And we also started in January this meeting with relevant people and discussing what is necessary, what we should improve, and whatnot. So the presentation I'm going to give you is pretty much the same as I did for my people. Next one. I start with a general issue. I will try to be brief because I think I put quite a lot of slides, but I will leave here, so I will leave the presentation here, so then you can go through it if you need some more information. So my first point is that when preparing national communication, you have to bear in mind that this is not a scientific paper. Sometimes you have to stress this to your experts, especially when preparing chapters on vulnerability, on impacts of climate change, and also when it comes to discussion about projections. Also, it should present scientific and technical information, but in a kind of layman way. So the national communication is more easily read by common public or for people who are not so involved in climate change. Another important point is that the national communication should be linked to development priorities. I read the third national communication, and I think you did a great job there, and it's a very good basis to make a fourth national communication. And you already linked quite a lot of issues to development priorities and put a lot of stress on vulnerability and assessment, bearing in mind that adaptation is a main issue for Georgia at the current point of time. As Georgi already said, it will be, well, the primary goal of preparing national communication is to comply with the commitments from UNFCCC. However, it should be also used for your internal purposes. It will put together information which may be later used for mainstreaming climate change considerations in all other documents, in strategic papers prepared by other sectors, other ministries, because Ministry of Environment is responsible for climate change, but all the measures, or most of the measures, have to be implemented under the responsibility of Ministry of Economy, Agriculture, Forestry, Tourism, etc. It can't be done by Ministry of Environment alone, because ministry usually does not have these competencies. Next one. When it comes to practicalities, when preparing and writing national communication, I would strongly recommend to use original picture tables and prepare them from the data you use as a source, not to cut and paste from other documents or other internet sources. The tables in text which you put in the main text, we found out that it's not useful to put a very detailed tables. Usually one or two is the main information is much more relevant than tables with hundreds of cells. We usually put those to the annexes. And if someone is really interested in some specific number or some specific line in the table or some specific source of category when it comes to inventory, there is a reference in the main text, and then they can look for the information there. Also, when compiling all the information, we found out that it's very, very good and useful to use services of professionals when it comes to editing, when it comes to preparing design, layout, and printing. When we try to do it by ourselves, we spend a lot of time, a lot of nerves, and the result was not very good, I have to say. And this is a very nice part, not very good. So, from the 6 we already did. 3 we did by our own forces, and 3 with the help of professionals, and I have to say that the difference is visible. And I have to say that it wasn't that costly when apart from printing. Fortunately now the obligation to provide 500 copies printed is revoked, so you have to submit national communication only in electronic form, but I would recommend to print some copies for your own use and for your own distribution as well, and also for use it when discussing issues with other ministries. Always good to have something in the handy paper and to provide them. But carefully consider how many copies you need, both in English, if you need in English, or in Georgian, or maybe in your case also in Russian. I think we still have some files in some offices of our third and fourth national communications, which is pretty much obsolete in its scrap paper, but we printed something like 700 copies or something. It was completely useless and waste of money and effort. Next one, please. Okay. When it comes to chapters, there should be concise, clear, and in understandable language, not very scientific it should be different from writing article to some scientific journal. It should really address the widest possible public, of course, keeping the information there. All the information and literature and sources you can either refer to at the end of the chapter or in one bulk at the end of the whole national communication. It's up to you. For our purposes, we do it at the end of each chapter. But I saw a lot of national communications which put the literature in one package as an annex or as a literature at the end. Do not put it in the text. This is my main message. In the square brackets, it's better to have it at the end. Also, bear in mind some kind of balance about the volume of the text of each chapter. Of course, it's not possible to have exact number of pages for mitigation or for vulnerability assessment or for policies and measures. But it's good if from, let's say, 200 pages, 150 pages are not devoted to, let's say, vulnerability assessment or some or policies and measures. So try to keep the balanced approach. Again, when you start preparing the text, ask your experts to use the same format and same font without any finances in editing, because the person who will compiling the whole text together will be in a very difficult situation if everything is in different format, if everything is in different types, and maybe it sounds trivial, but I personally did compiling of 3 national communication. I can tell you that I spent hours and hours just to try to put it together in a same, in a usable format, and then you adapt the text and some text from other sources, and the whole setup was just broken, and you can start again. So it would save a lot of work at the end. And another recommendation would be use as much graphic information as possible. It means graphs, tables, pictures. Of course, not only those, but it helps to understand what you put in the text, and it's more visible, and it has much bigger force than if people read just text. Yes. As Georgi already said, it is important to keep the continuity with your previous national communication, and somehow assess or comment on what happened in the time in between preparation of the third national communication and fourth national communication. You listed a lot of projects or activities you planned to do in your third national communication. I don't think it's necessary to put to each of the project or each of the activity you listed what is the status, but to summarize in general what happened, let's say, in the mitigation sector, that from the projects you plan to implement in the third national communication, that and that number of projects were implemented or are under the implementation. And if you have some estimates of the impacts of those projects, it would be also very, very useful to state it in the national communication. As it was already said, the national communication should be consistent, transparent, and in flexible manner, so you can use this information from the national communication for your other documents, and not only facts, but also, let's say, the whole chapters or the whole parts of text. I think we can skip that. This is the information what the national communication should contain. You have it in the guidelines, and you already did your national communication several times, so this is not important. When it comes to the practical things, what it should contain, okay, these are the chapters. So let's talk about now a little about the table of content. I would strongly recommend to have a table of content for 1 page. You do not necessarily have to list all subchapter and sub-subchapters in the in the content, because people usually are more interested in or if they are interested in very specific information, they will easily find it if it is well structured as a text. But if you have a content which goes through 3 pages, it is pretty tiresome to find exactly what you are looking for. Again, when you are writing national communication, I would strongly recommend not to use the automatic content from the word. You can link it at the end of the work, but again, because people are using very different formats and very different approach, even if you ask them to not to, it will come to pieces every time you copied something, and again you will have much more work as help with this automatic content. And again, table of content, I would recommend to put it at the very end of the work. Once you have everything ready, executive summary, TORs, annexes, pictures, graphs, everything, then I think when you put the table of contents, then you have half of the work done with them. Or leave it to the editor. For them, it's their job, and they have tricks and experiences to do it with much less effort than we do. When it comes to executive summary, as I thought, it is first in the text, but usually last to be written. It's up to you whether you want to have it for 15 pages or for 3 pages. I think it's better to have it a bit extended. This 15-20 pages is very useful because most of the people usually read only executive summary. Maybe not most, but many people. And if they are interested in something more, then they will go to deeper to the text. The executive summary should follow the structure of the document, so the chapters which you have in the document, and also the main tables, pictures, and graph, but not all. Just try to refrain from putting 3 or 4 tables or graphs to the executive summary. Maybe one when it comes to emission trends, or when it comes to adaptation, the most significant, or when it comes to temperature rising, just a couple of facts which can catch eye, and then to leave the rest for the full text. We do not consider necessary in the executive summary to use the references to literature. This is executive summary. If you need some, or if someone needs some reference to sources, they can find it later on. But it makes the executive summary more or harder to read, and at the end of the day, you never can refer to everything when you are summarizing. Then when we go to introduction, again, it's up to you. It might be political, it might be kind of describing the process, how it come to the national communication. In introduction, it's more or less you have a free hand what you put there, but bear in mind that this is not an executive summary. Introduction should be different. National circumstances, you can go down. National circumstances, there is in guidelines or manual, it is pretty well described what the national circumstances should contain, but I would I would like to stress that the most important information in national circumstances is economic development and of course institutional setting for the country and economic development. Because these are the main issues from which the whole, let's say, other chapters are, to which other chapters are related. Whether it is public awareness, whether it is mitigation measures, whether it is adaptation, impacts on all other sectors. So please try to focus or describe economic development, especially in the areas which are relevant for energy production or GDP growth or tourism development and so on. Another key part of the national communication is GHG inventory. It is usually done separately. I don't know how it is in Georgia, but we have to prepare national GHG inventory. This is just an illustration of how complicated it is, and we have to bear in mind also when presenting the information. So, in the chapter on national inventories, again, focus on the basic sources, basic information on the main GHG, main sources, methodology which is used. I suspect, or I suppose you are using 2000. You are going to use 2006. General trends since 1990. You have a base year 1992 or 1990. And if there are big differences compared to the third national communication, please comment on them. It happened to us once that we had a quite jump in the inventories from LULUCF in things, and somehow we ignored comment on it, and during the revision we had a lot of troubles, and during the review we had a lot of troubles to find out firstly why was this, because our experts who prepared it were already somewhere else, and secondly to explain whether it is, because it looked suspicious, whether it is some consequences of new methodology, or we omitted some important facts, or it is just happened, but then we should explain why. And at the end of the day, we discovered that this was because we had some natural disasters in the reporting years, and together with the climatic and weather conditions, the given year was very specific in terms of tree growing. So our sinks were not as on the usual level, but dropped by something like 15%, which was quite significant. But I don't know, we somehow overlooked that, and then at the end of the day it caused us quite a lot of problems. So if you have some discrepancies or some anomalies in the trends, please mention them in the text. You don't need to go to some lengthy explanation, but just to acknowledge that you know about it, you know what are the causes or why it is so, and that's it. Georgi already said about the quality of data, completeness, uncertainty analysis, and analysis of key sectors. And I would also recommend that to use or to provide the table in the national communication, which stated maybe two tables, one with trends by classes and one with trends by sectors.
Representative for the national communication.
Yeah, so quite a lot of people are not looking into national communication, and then the revision. I have to say that I was in the review team of two national communications, and this was making quite a lot of troubles then to find I did the review for Portugal and for the Russian Federation, and it was a challenge, especially Russian Federation. I think we can skip this. You did the JG inventory a couple of times, and I have it twice. Okay, skip it again. Coming to policies and measures. Apart from inventories, policies and measures is one of the most interesting and important and most volatile part of national communication. While emissions inventory is something pretty solid and supplement based on facts and data, policies and measures are sometimes very difficult to gather this information, especially when it comes to other sectors. Many of the other sectors, like for instance Ministry of Transport, they put quite a lot of measures in place and implement them without knowing that they have effect on climate change as well. So when you, let's say, ask them, please provide us with the list of measures you took with respect to climate change, they sometimes send you a list of 3 or 4, this is a better case, measures, or they say we did not implement it, nothing like that. But when you go through the list, or when you look closely to their policies, measures, strategic documents, you see that there are relevancies, especially all measures related to energy savings or energy efficiency. Sometimes they do it through because of different motivation, but they have the impact on the climate change as well. The same with adaptation. Agricultural sectors is usually very good in observing changes, and they are preparing for adapting to this trend without closely linking it to climate change. That's why we proceed with this, to discuss it with them and to explain what you need, and then you can get a much better quality of information. In describing policies and measures, if it is possible, try to assess the impact on the, in terms of quantity of emission reduced. It's very hard and very difficult, especially if you have some kind of cross-cutting measures, if you are implementing measures which may bring effect in a couple of years without immediate impact. But there are methodologies, there are some ways how to assess, some indicators how it is possible to assess. It might not be exact figure, or it might even be quite large uncertainty with this figure. But if you use the same indicators or same approach when you are assessing the results after the implementation, you can see the difference, and you can see whether there was some impact, and whether your assessment was, let's say, quite good or totally wide. Again, under this chapter, it is good if you describe our activities related to low emission development strategies you are preparing. NAMAS you submitted under the Copenhagen, and these INDCs, and this is a very good place to describe how far you are with the Paris Agreement ratification and your involvement in the international climate negotiation process. Another important part of the policies and measure chapter is part devoted to projections and impact assessment. I think you did a good job, and I don't think you need to change this dramatically. You use a Markov model, which is widely known and accepted. So the only thing is to find or to try to get a better quality data with more disaggregation. But I can imagine that this is rather difficult. That it took us something like 10 years to somehow fine-tune the system with the statistical office and with the large polluters to provide us with sufficient data, especially when it comes to kind of vision for next 5, 10, 15 years, to get this data from refineries. As I said, we have only one refinery, so any kind of data they provided, everyone knows that they are from this specific refinery. So we had to make some contract with them that this data will be only used for scenarios and so on. And the same with some metallurgy company again. Statistical office refused to provide this data because they couldn't aggregate them with anyone else. And then, especially when it comes to planned activities or use of combustion materials or raw materials, when it comes to emission, this was quite easy because all information related to environment cannot be considered as a confidential. This is also a bit tricky because if you know the technology and if you know the factor, once you know how much emission the company is emitting, it's quite simple to calculate backwards some maybe more sensitive information. But after a couple of years and couple of experiences, currently we have pretty good trust with the companies and they are cooperating very well in preparing scenarios, but it took a lot of time and effort. Again, I think that those who are preparing the scenarios know about the sensibility of sectoral projections, aggregated projections. Basically, you do not need a model for every tiny sector you have. Some of them are or might be assessed through simple Excel table with some formula, but you have to be able to justify it and to show that this is pretty much well in accordance with the existing or with the situation. Next one. Too much time, I'm sorry. Vulnerability adaptation is usually the most colorful and most interesting part for people who are not experts in climate change and mitigation, because this is something everybody feels they understand, whether it is weather or climate or impact or disasters. As I said, your third national communication and especially chapter on vulnerability and adaptation is very well done, and I think you do not need to repeat all this information again. You may focus on the new information you have and maybe on other areas which were not so highlighted in the third one, and to refer back to the third one. And also it's good to use the indicators which are, as I said, commonly known, like temperature, precipitation, and duration of snow cover. You have glaciers. Sometimes we put in our national communication some kind of information about how the, I don't know the scientific name, but it is about how evaporation or something. Transpiration, yes. And it's very important from the point of view of agriculture and impact But to write a 20 pages chapter about evapotranspiration in the national communications was not a good idea. So in the next one we tried to reduce it, so it was balanced with other chapters. For us, the water and water scarcity is an issue, especially in eastern part of Slovakia. So the water scarcity and droughts are in some national communications are described in more details, and then in the next one we focused on other aspects of adaptations. Again, for climate change scenarios, we use the regional model, I believe, for adaptation. It's very hard to have a specific model for the country, the size of Georgia or Slovakia, especially if you take into account the geomorphology. You have a very hilly or the landscape of the country is very complicated. So I think expecting that you will have your own national model for climate change scenario is a bit far-fetched. The same in Slovakia, it makes no sense. But I believe there is a lot of scientific information which is locally encouraged. So I think it is a good base for use it together with the regional model. But it should be quite clearly described in the chapter. And of course, national communications should also contain all other relevant information. Again, you did the technology need assessment in 2017, I think. I don't know whether you are preparing for another one. You had already, you have both, yeah. So just to mention it there, and maybe if you prepare also action plan, to refer to action plan and then the main. Yeah. So you don't need to repeat this information again. And all other issues. I would like to say a few words more about public awareness. It was already mentioned here that you need a public awareness or it would be good to make some public awareness activities concerning the fourth national communication. But this is true for the climate change as such. This is something we struggle with since 1990. We try to do public awareness almost every year, but this is usually considered as a quite a soft activity without direct impact, that this is something like blah, 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 but without that you can't reach the change in the heads of people. And it means in their behavior. And without changing behavior, you cannot reach any change, whether it comes to climate change or mitigation or adaptation. And this is a never-ending story.